Hey there, miners. Rusty coming at you. And you might be thinking to yourself, Rusty, that's a strange looking knife lying up there. Where are you going to go with this? Well, this is a Miner's Minute, and I'm going to try to keep it short, and I want to hear from you on knife ups. So hopefully you know what I'm talking about. So before me, I have a CJRB Feldspar. That's a small Bridgeport 395 Virgin 2, the SRM 9201, and an Effengrau EF 950. Now, what do all these knives have in common? Absolutely nothing. Okay, so with this CJRB, I wanted to make the action better, and I took it apart and I oiled it up nice, and when I went to put it together, I tightened the pivot down, and I didn't over tighten it, but it doesn't open all the way, and when it closes, it like, you can feel the bearings in there. So, yeah, what I have now is a stripped pivot. You ever stripped a pivot? If so, how do you solve it? Well, just to let you know, contacted CJRB. They want $20 for a new pivot. I did the same thing on this, but this is my Bridgeport 395. Lubed it up, took her down, got her tight, went to back it off, and stripped this pivot. I contacted Garrett. Garrett's the Bridgeport guy. He designed the knives. He had them made. He had them shipped to his house, and then he would ship them out when you ordered them from him. He said he'd get me one out. I was going to pay for it. He said he'd mail me one. He said I'd follow him up a month later. He said he'd mail me one a month later. I was getting worried. I stopped contacting him. And about 3 months after I requested one, I got a new pivot. Thank you, Garrett. And some goodies. And I'll just say they were a nice assortment of high value items. He just said, sorry it took so long, and sent me, well, I'll let you know, carbon fiber scale, and well, that's just an example, some of that. So anyways, this one is not destroyed, and I do have a pivot. I just didn't want, I contacted him because I didn't want my knife to go without a replacement pivot, especially being this kind of knife. Bridgeport, it's custom, you know. What'd you do to this one, Rusty? Well, my friend Jolly Peanut did this, and I wanted to do. This was one of my knives that I like. And by the way, one of the knives I learned to sharpen on, I'm pretty proud of this. So I use this to sharpen. I think she's a pretty sharp knife, and I always thought the detent was a little weak, and people talked about, hey, you can push that lock bar over and it will increase the pressure. Well, don't push it over too far. They're right. The detent did improve, but it's just hard to unlock this now. It's not impossible. It's hard, and it's always hard on a frame lock if you're going to do the thumb studs. So over adjusted my lock bar. Shoot, that was a pretty nice knife. And finally I learned I was using this to do some dyeing, and not perfect. You guys might not think this is a mistake, but it was a pain. It's an axis lock. You just learn, you know. And I took this apart. I got uneven dye throughout there. I sanded it off, believe it or not, and re-dyed it. And you can see now dark spots. It's darker in some spots, darker here. But it makes the knife rather original. I also remember I dyed this with the springs in on the axis lock, but in fact this thing's a better finger flicker than a thumb one. Man, it does have nice Nice action. That's the F and Grow 950. I'm going to stop. I want to hear from you guys. This is the Long Miner's Minute. Tell me about your knife ups. Thanks, guys.